What's going on, everybody? My name is Anthony Kemp Jr., and I'm happy to have you here on the Safety Realm. Remember, this is the podcast where we discuss all things safety and health. I have a special guest today by the name of Mr. Luke Stark. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So before we get ready to get started, everybody, I'm gonna give you some background of Mr. Luke. He resides and lives in the UK. So remember, I told you I wanted to get people from different places in the world. The last person I interviewed was from Africa. Now we're going to London. So I'm excited, man. You know, the world is big, but it can also be small. So I'm gonna go ahead and introduce Mr. Luke here. So Mr. Luke has been working in safety and doing safety critical roles for almost 20 years. His career started in railways in the UK, and as the years have gone by, he has spent his time climbing his career ladder, developing his skills and understanding of safety and health, applying it to everything that he does. He gave up full-time employment a little bit over a couple of years ago now and started his own company, EOS Health and Safety Quality Environmental Consultancy. And he provides safety and health and quality and environmental consultancy and supports a number of different sectors. These include the rail industry, construction, agriculture, manufacturing, and retail. He takes pride in the work that he delivers to his clients, and he is always doing his best to strive to be the best in class. And his official title for his business is director, but foremost over anything, he is a health and safety, quality, and environmental consultant. Mr. Luke, happy to have you. How you doing?
Oh, very well. Yeah, thanks for inviting me along. I was excited to come along and just have a chat. And yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, sir, man. You know, I'm actually happy we're able to do this. Like I said, you know, during the introductory, I've always wanted to take safety from just the U.S. And as I grew in my career, I started to realize that safety
Mm.
is not just a construction language or just an American language. It's a language that every nation has. From Qatar, Dubai, and all these different nations around the world. Africa, you
Mhm.
got Canada and UK. And it's just awesome to have you, man. So I'm happy to have you here to spend some time with us. And I got some questions, and we're going to make this
Sure.
interesting for all of our listeners. And man, I'm just happy to have you here on the podcast.
Yeah, no, thanks. I appreciate it. Like you say, it's I think health and safety in some ways is a bit of an international language that people understand and can speak. You can go to different parts of the world and understand health, safety, quality management, irrespective of the sector and the industry. So exactly the same as you've just said. When you meet other people from around the world, it's always good to have a different perspective and what it is that motivates them to do the job that we all do. So yeah, happy to have a chat. Let's crack on.
Yes, sir. So my first question, man, is what made you seek out the career path in the business side of safety? What made you go this route?
Yes, it's an odd one, really, in a way, because I never really planned to do it. It was something that I got into. So when I joined the railway 20 years ago, the role I took on was what we call a safety critical role. So it has an operational safety function. You are assisting with the movement of trains. Sometimes that is the attaching and the detaching of trains. It's walking down onto the track. And from that, I kind of enjoyed some of that operational safety. It can be a little bit hazardous at times, and that is something that kind of interests me and intrigues me. But going through the railway and coming across different areas of the railway, because in the UK the railway is vast. It's such a good industry to be in. There are so many different roles you can do, and that's why so many people spend 40 or 50 years working in the industry, because you can move on, and one year do one job, and in 5 years later do something completely different. But there's always safety in mind. Safety is embedded in everything we do. And as I realized that I enjoyed it more and more, I simply took the opportunities that came to do more learning, more occupational training, realized I enjoyed it, and just sought it out more and more, even to the point where I was paying for it and out of my own money to do more and more courses. But yeah, I mean, generally, it wasn't something that I planned. I think a lot of people probably fall into it and actually suddenly realize they enjoy it. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's how I got into safety.
Wow, that's interesting. My path was really just trying to get experience and, in the process of me myself, in the process of being in construction, I seen an area that I felt, hey man, I feel like I would be contributing to
Yeah.
society in some kind of positive manner. And it sounds like to me, like over a period of time, you realize like, hey, this is something that I want to do. I feel like this is something where I can help people on a day by day basis. My second
Mhm.
question that I have for you, which I do think the listeners, and the more I grow in my career here in the States, I realize people want to know how you got into safety from an educational standpoint.
Yeah.
So from an educational standpoint, do you have any degrees or certification designations in the UK that has helped you to grow in your career and be as effective with your 20-year experience in safety?
So, I mean, in terms of a degree in safety, I don't have a degree in safety, but I do have a degree in a completely separate topic, nothing related whatsoever. But so when you work on the railway, one of the fundamental requirements of anybody that does a safety critical role is your employer has to provide you with certain types of training. And when I got into the management roles, I became what we called at the time a competency development manager. So part of my role was to actively manage the competencies of safety critical staff. And that meant that I had to have some IOSH, managing safely training, which is like a management grade IOSH training. And then from there, I was also able to convince the business to give me NEBOSH training. Now, NEBOSH is an international organization that provides health and safety training. It's recognized around the world. You can do one that's specific to the UK. You can also do a NEBOSH International, and you'll probably find that with a lot of guys that are in the Middle East, West Africa, East Africa. They'll have NEBOSH courses. But there are different levels. I mean, I had my NEBOSH General Certificate, which is kind of like the basic level, and then I eventually progressed into the diploma, which is an NVQ level, which is like a degree. It's not quite a degree, but almost. And a lot of it has just come through the job as I've gone up and down the ladder and as I've progressed into self-employment. All of the training I've had is in some way, shape, or form connected to a function that I want to perform, whether that be manual handling training, whether it be NVQ assessing. So I now have the qualification. I can assess individuals at certain levels of their own education. So I can assess the work that they're producing, and I can determine whether or not that work is good enough to get the certificate. So there's lots of bits and pieces that I do, but all of that has come quite organically through the last 20 years. I would say in the last 5 years, there's been more of a concerted effort to shape it. I've just finished a course at the end of last year. I'll be doing my chartered membership this year, so that made me a chartered member of IOSH. So yeah, there's a variation. I think at some point I would do my masters in health and safety. So we have a course here which is occupational health and safety and risk management.
Hmm.
Do a masters in that. But I mean, you tend to find, in my experience, I'm kind of lucky because I've got 20 years of experience backing it up.
Right.
There's not a lot of call for me to do that. If I were to meet some of the younger guys that are coming through now, many of them are starting with degrees, which is great. But in terms of their practical on-site experience, they have nothing.
Right.
So even though I don't have a master's, they still come to me and they'll ask me, "Oh, what do I do here? What's this about?" Because what you learn in a book is great, but what you actually do on site, as you'll know yourself, is sometimes
Right.
incredibly different. It's
Yeah.
very different. We have a thing in the UK where we talk about engineers. You have practical engineers and then you have a book engineer. So the book engineer is the guy that's been to university, he's got degrees, got masters. He can tell you everything a book tells you. And then you've got the guy that's learned from being an apprentice. He's been doing this job since he was 16. His practical knowledge of engineering is completely different to what the guy that reads books is telling him.
Right.
It's the same sort of thing. So, but I take the opinion when it comes to education; it never stops. I'm not going to get to a point where I go, well, that's it, that's enough education now. I think while I'm still learning, I'm still interested in the job, and there'll always be something new to learn. So that's kind of my approach to it. It's always learning something.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because even in the States, there's a conversation around, education, how important it is, which, everybody knows education is important. That's kind of like it's access for you to get through the door.
Yeah.
Me, I'm an industry hire,
Mhm.
so I started in construction with, pretty much zero experience working on the construction materials testing side. And then,
Mhm.
over a period of time, I found out like, hey, this isn't something that I want to do long term. I want to get into something else. And then, I ended up getting into safety
Yeah.
probably about 2.5 to 3 years after that. And what I found is actually what you said, like nothing against the people who go and get the degrees in
No.
occupational safety and health. I think that that's great. But oftentimes, like you said, it's usually a younger group. And most of the time, they're so fresh just from standards and reading books that honestly is so much information compiled that when they get in the field, they're like,
Yeah.
okay, when does this apply? When doesn't it apply? How do I really use this book in the real world on this job site?
Yeah.
And so, like you said, I get questions from people who are, getting their degrees in construction, people who have degrees in accounting,
Mhm.
people who have their degrees in something else that get into construction. Oftentimes, they have questions on, okay, how does the process work? And I would say the same thing if I was doing something different. I would ask
Mhm.
questions, if I went from doing safety to cybersecurity, even if
Yeah.
I had my degree in safety, which I don't, I have
Mhm.
certifications and designations, but if I had my degree in, safety and I went into cybersecurity, right? Like it would be a whole new world.
Yeah.
Hey, let's say I did go to school for cybersecurity
Mm.
and I got into cybersecurity. I mean, now I got to take this information in this book and
Uh-huh.
I got to figure out how it really works in the real world. I think that's just a testament to, education and experience combined together. It's always beneficial to anybody who has both at the same time.
It is, and that's the trick I find sometimes. It's about helping this person that's got the degrees but hasn't got the experience. It's about helping them understand how to apply it. And the irony is actually, and I know this is something that you and I might talk about in another podcast.
Hmm.
I've got 20 years of rail experience. That's the overground, that's light rail, that's the London Underground as well. So I have a unique set of experiences when it comes to rail. And one of the topics that you and I might discuss later on is things like corporate memory. And what corporate memory really is me taking that experience of 20 years and making sure that the new guys that come along, the new men and women, learn from the same mistakes or the same issues and challenges that we were experiencing for the last 20 years so that
Hmm.
they don't make those same mistakes. And that's the challenge I find with new people. It's about saying, that's great, you got a degree. I can use that because sometimes it's really good because they will remind me of things that I forgot because that
Hmm.
happened. They'll say, oh, what about this? I'll go, oh, yeah, crikey, I forgot about that. You're absolutely right. But the application of it is very, very different. So you have that conversation with them. But at the same time, you say to them, we do it this way, which might sound different to the book because of this. We
Hmm.
learned 10 years ago, because of this incident, because of this accident, we now need to approach doing these things this way. That's why it's different. That's why it doesn't necessarily fit the stuff that you've learned. So you get that mix of corporate memory, making sure things aren't forgotten, and also just making sure they understand that what you've learned is fine, but it's not always going to see you through the problems that you're going to face on a daily or weekly basis. So it can be a bit of a juggling act, and it's just making sure, like I say, they understand. It's not in any way, shape, or form dismissing their knowledge. It's just helping
Hmm.
them use it in the right way and at the right time. You know?
Right. And, I have a question. So,
Mm.
with, your 20 years of experience and, your industry experience along with safety, when it comes to, you dealing with your clients, how has your education in the UK helped you to be effective for your clients when when you get a call to come out
Mm.
to a specific job site? How has that helped you to be able to better serve your clients?
I think generally speaking, just take your time. I think it's all about gathering information and then being able to analyze what it is that you're being told. And sometimes you'll get told a lot of information, but some of that information is completely irrelevant. And you need to have that experience and understanding to be able to sort the wheat from the chaff. What do I need? What do I not need? What do I need to deal with now? And what can I put aside and come back to later?
Hmm.
And I would say the education's good for that, because it will always tell you the things that you need to be looking for. So if there's been an accident, what's the evidence? Take me to the place where the accident occurred. Let's take some photographs. Let's talk to the people that witnessed it. Let's make sure that the levels of information that these individuals are putting in a form is detailed and it's accurate. So that's the book and the education side of you. The other side of you, the experience, is also telling me I'm going to go and speak to someone that's potentially witnessed an accident. they're probably not going to be in the right frame of mind to really want to have a conversation about too much. So show some empathy. Look after
Hmm.
them. Are they all right? Are you all right? Do you want to do this now or do you want to wait? You've also got the other aspect of it is when there are accidents, sometimes, the regulator gets involved, and the regulator here works on behalf of the government. So we have the government law, the legislation, that's enforced by the Health and Safety Executive. And then under them, you have other regulators. So, for example, on the railway, you have the ORR, the Office of Rail and Road. So if there is an accident on the railway, let's say it's a train derailment, at some point the ORR are going to turn up and they're going to start asking questions, and they're going to want to look at evidence, and they're going to want to see all sorts of things. So my experience also then tells me that if a client has an issue, I need to prepare them for the fact that the regulator might turn up and these are the sorts of things they're going to see. But not only that, if you make it hard for the regulator, they have the power to make your life very, very uncomfortable. So
Okay.
don't make it difficult.
Right.
Ask questions, be honest. If you don't know the answer, tell them. Don't try and hide anything. Just be upfront. And if that means you've made a mistake somewhere, even if you don't tell them, they're probably going to find out. So that's the experience as well. So it's a little bit of both. I understand from the legal perspective how it works, but I've also got that practical experience in terms of what to expect and therefore what to inform the client as to what they need to do next.
That's interesting, because like when I have dealt with incidents in the past, and I said this to someone before, when you really do an accident investigation, when you get that call that, hey, somebody got hurt or there was a
Mm.
situation, there was a property damage of some sort. What I found is oftentimes once you gather the facts, you really do find out, hey, where the issue really is.
Mm.
And like you
Yeah.
said, was somebody really telling you the truth or not? Because as you're gathering this data and this information and whether you're using a computer to log in, your report, or you're using a physical, paper document, you
Mm.
do start to say, hey, well, you said this happened
Yep.
and then that led to this, but how did these two things lead to this? I'm not, there's something, are you giving me all the information that I need? And, reassuring people, like you said, hey, be honest, because if you're not honest, I'm going to see it.
Yep.
And that's not like nothing to be scared of. It's just I need the information so that when I put this report in and I turn it in, it makes sense to the person that's reading it that was not there. So, the way I was trained by a gentleman, he told me, he said, whenever you do an accident investigation, whether it be, somebody got hurt or
Mm.
rather it be a property damage claim, whatever it could be, type of incident, rather, whether it be a property incident. He said, you always want to gather as much information plausible to the actual incident happening, but
Mm.
also you want to make it so plain according to the information they've given you
Yeah.
to where even though, let's say, the client wasn't there, even though the owner wasn't there, you want them to be able to clearly mentally have a mental picture that when they read this document, oh,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense how this accident
Mm.
could occur. But if
Yep.
you don't do an investigation like that or an incident report that way, what'll happen is it won't make sense to them, and then it'll get kicked back. So,
Yeah.
you always gather the facts, get the information, and then once you have everything you need and it's concrete, then you're like, okay, man, I appreciate it, man. If they're able to go back to work, whatever the case may be, depends on the situation, what kind of, incident it is. You kind of know
Mhm.
what to do from there. So I'm happy you mentioned that, man, because I do find that some people, they're very nervous about giving the facts, and it's like, hey man, you're not
Yeah.
in trouble because you give facts. We actually need the facts so that we can, after I make this report and I send it out, we can use it, to your point, as a learning lesson for everybody else so that we can avoid this same incident moving forward.
And that's an interesting point because you sometimes find that if the individual that's been involved in the incident or accident is nervous about giving you information, it might be because they're frightened that they're going to lose their job.
Yeah.
And that in itself could suggest that the culture of that business or organization is not very good, i.e.,
Hmm.
we don't tolerate health and safety. We don't tolerate mistakes. If you make a mistake and you're found to it, you're out the door. And that's indicative of a lot of organizations and a lot of industries. They still
Hmm.
take this approach that if you make a mistake and you try and hide it, you've obviously done it on purpose. I've only ever come across, I think, one person that intentionally did something. And in
Hmm.
fact, that wasn't something I was directly involved in. It was an investigation that occurred here in the UK. And they found this individual did intentionally override a safety feature. And through the investigation, he was arrested.
Yeah.
That's the only time I've ever known that to happen. Generally speaking, anybody that's involved in an accident or incident is completely, an accident. They didn't mean to do it because nobody goes
Right.
to work thinking, right, who can I try and kill today? No one does that.
Right.
It just doesn't
Right.
make sense. So you have to take that approach exactly like you say. Is look, you made a mistake. Let's just own it. Let's figure out why you made that mistake and let's fix it. That's it.
Yeah.
And exactly as you say, because if that individual's made a mistake, it might mean that other people in that workforce have had, let's say, they're all lacking a bit of training. So therefore, you now got 10 individuals with an increased likelihood of having the same accident or incident because their training hasn't happened or it wasn't good enough. So you've identified a gap and now you get the opportunity to fix it. So yeah, it can be quite difficult to extract information from people, which, can
Yeah.
suggest that the culture of that business is not particularly good.
Yeah. I can say this, man. Like, I think, Brashville and Gorey, the company that I work for now, has kind of they help reassure
Mm,
me of like you when an incident occurs, you do not only have to be delicate, but you also do have to be, hey man, accidents, they're going to happen. It's
yeah.
not that they should never happen. I mean, that's the whole point of people like me and you having a
Mhm,
job, being able to go out and help people.
mhm,
Whenever I'm teaching the OSHA 10 or OSHA 30 class and I use real information of jobs that I was at, and I speak about, hey, this really happened. Something that I always tell them is something that I always tell them is, hey man, like this really happened at a job, but I just want you to know that regardless of the fact that this happened, incidents are going to occur on the job.
yeah,
There's really no way to kind of get past it. That's why I'm
yeah,
employed. Of course, I want to minimize them as much as I can, but it's really a numbers game. How many people do you
yeah,
have on site? You need to kind of get ready for any minor or
yep.
possibly major incident that possibly could occur.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, you're right. Yeah, the likelihood. I mean, you go on certain jobs, they're massive sites, so you're going to have an issue at some point, and yeah, you can react to it, and that's great. You can be proactive as much as you want, but at some point, something's going to happen. I always say it's a question of when, not if. And you
Mm,
just need to
yeah.
be as well prepared as you can. But certainly, I mean, I think again that practical experience it tells me a lot about when you're dealing with people on sites because sometimes you do look you see someone doing something on a site and you think why are you doing that.
Right.
There's no rhyme or reason as to why you're doing that. I have no idea what you're doing or why. You have to go over and tell them and I'm sure sometimes they know it, they just don't realize the danger or the hazard of what they're doing, and
Hmm.
it really boggles my mind. But I think a lot of that just comes down to individuals that have been doing jobs for a long, long time. They're so comfortable with the hazards around them, they just become complacent. They just forget, and they
Hmm.
get around their bit. They want to go back to the cabin. They want to go and get a drink. They want to get water, whatever it is. They take they take a bit of a short route to get back there. They know they shouldn't, but they do it because they're thirsty. And you're just like, why? Just take the extra bit around. It won't take long. I'd much rather you did that than me having to sort out an investigation because you've been hit by a moving vehicle or something. And a lot of it really is just dealing with human behavior, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
human behavior is hard.
Yeah, and the company I work for now, and I think I kind of went over this, but I didn't get straight to it. Brassfield is really good at saying, "Hey, we don't want to like blame the employee. We're actually trying to
Mm,
figure out how we can help the employee."
yeah.
Now, over a period of time, like you said, if a person isn't, if I could say it in my own words, acting in good faith, you're gonna know that, over a period of time. You'll realize it because they'll be doing the same repetitive
Yeah.
thing, and then you'll
Yeah.
see like, oh, this person, this person honestly doesn't care. And I've only seen, like you said, very few people,
Mm,
in the construction industry that have done that. And I wanted to kind of lead to the next question.
mm, sure.
Agriculture.
Mm,
Me being a safety professional, I've been in manufacturing facilities before, and I've definitely been on construction sites, which is a
mm,
really big emphasis of safety management that I do right now.
yeah.
Agriculture is I've seen like videos, I've seen photos of how agriculture is used in relation to how safety is used to agriculture. Sorry,
Mm,
how safety
mm,
is used to agriculture. What are some of the things that you've seen that you can say is like a principle that crosses from construction to, even agriculture?
Well, there's a lot of similarities. I mean, if you look at the so to give everyone a bit of background, agriculture in the UK is the most dangerous sector in the UK. It has a very small workforce, maybe about 120,000 people, um, but it has the highest percentage per capita of fatalities. So this year alone, from April till now, they've had 28 fatalities. Now,
Oh, wow. Okay.
if that's 28 out of a workforce of 120,000, to give you some context, typically in construction in the UK is about 1.2 million people working, and they have about 45 fatalities per year. So that basically translates to mean that you're 27 times more likely to be killed
Mhm.
working
Wow.
in agriculture than you are construction. So it's an incredibly dangerous sector, and yet a lot of the hazards are the same. So, for example, falling from height. That's one of the top causes of fatalities in both construction and agriculture. Being struck by a moving vehicle,
Hmm.
same thing. The issue really centers around the fact that agriculture has for years and years and years been left to manage itself. And so what you have is you have this very large group of individuals that are quite content with the hazards they manage on a day-to-day basis. They don't necessarily have the perception of the hazard like I would walking onto that site. So they
Okay.
just don't see things as dangerous. And of course, with agriculture in the UK, you're dealing with forestry, fishing, and farming. Now, where I really work is farming, and where you have farms in the UK, it's probably the same in the US. You don't just deal with a farmer; you're dealing with the family. The
Yeah.
families live on farms, so the
Hmm.
families are also exposed to the same hazards. So every year we will have a number of fatalities that are small children. It's the children of the
Mm.
farmers quite often being killed on the farms.
Wow.
And it's all stuff that can quite easily be fixed and managed. This isn't
Hmm.
anything that requires huge quantities of cash, massive amounts of education, nothing. It's all very simple, straightforward stuff. But what it needs is farmers to be pretty hard, pretty tough on the people that they hire. So if they're
Hmm.
driving around in tractors, if they're not driving at the speed, if it should be 15 or 10 miles per hour and they're driving at 30, that individual needs to be dealt with. And it's those little things that are occurring. You also get hazards with the general public because a lot of farmland is open to the public. You can walk through it. And a lot of people don't realize, strangely, that things like cows and bulls, they're actually quite dangerous animals to be around. And cows,
Right.
particularly. I think
Hmm.
people look at cows and they think that they're quite stupid and docile. But if there's one thing I've
Hmm.
learned about cows in the last few years is actually they're highly intelligent. They have very good memories, and they can quite often be very aggressive and protective, especially if they have calves around. Now, obviously,
Hmm.
that's very different to construction. You're not dealing with animals, but the translation from some of the hazards in construction into agriculture is no different. And in fact, you'll get a lot of individuals on farms that understand construction work. So it's really about just getting farmers to know that sort of
Okay.
stuff and just saying, look, what you're doing is dangerous. It's dangerous because of this. It's not going to cost you a lot. Just do it slightly differently.
Right.
They will do things like, for example, they'll have certain pieces of equipment. And the way the equipment is designed, there'll be pieces of that equipment that turn, that turn very, very quickly to obviously stop you from becoming your hands or parts of your clothing trapped in it. And they remove them for ease of use. And they just take them away because they have to constantly change bits and pieces for the tractor. I'm like, that's all well and good. But if you're going to do that, first of all, turn the tractor off
Hmm.
because it's a live piece of equipment you haven't
Yeah.
even isolated. You know? And then
Hmm.
that's why things happen. Like, I mean, there's a famous guy over here now who does a lot of talks around the UK, and he's a farmer, but he had his arm pulled off for
Wow.
exactly that same thing. He got his hand trapped and he pulled his arm off.
Wow.
Simple, basic stuff. And it's the same with
Hmm.
construction, isn't it? You work around telehandlers, forklift trucks, cranes. Just don't be, if you don't need to be in that vicinity, don't be there.
Right.
If you don't need to be around it. But it's very translatable. It's just getting farmers to understand, I don't need you to spend money. I just need you to listen.
Yeah.
That's
That
it.
gets a lot of people, man. The money part. It's I would say, especially, if it's a smaller, entity within agriculture. Well, man, you're trying to get us to no, no. You might spend money, but and I think any safety professional like yourself with your kind of experience, you understand like that's a delicate conversation. Like, hey,
Mm.
man, we
Yeah.
really I don't want you to think you got to shell out 50 grand to get this issue
Yeah.
fixed, but I
Yeah.
do want you to know this is an issue, which is why you may have had this incident or this close
Yeah.
call, which is why I'm
Yeah.
here today. These are some things that you can do to hopefully reduce the possibility of this likely happening again. And
Yep.
so, in school, they teach us, hey, whenever you are bringing up something and you know it's going to cost some money, try to find different options and try to find
Mm.
an option that, yeah, it may cost, but make sure it's not over costly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with building relationships with people and your team. And in your case, hey, getting the buy-in of that
Yeah.
client, to understand like, hey, I'm for you. I don't, I'm not here to get you to spend 100K or
Mm.
50K. I just need you to see that I'm here to help you and I want to continue to do business with you. And then you
Mhm.
also refer me to other people as well.
Yeah, yeah, and actually similarly, to construction, it's about helping businesses also understand the health and safety shouldn't complicate what you're doing. It
Hmm.
should actually complement and at times make things more efficient.
Yeah.
So in actual fact, safety, health and safety used the right way can actually save you money.
Hmm.
And if you address it in that way, like I mean, again, if you talk to a farmer and you say to him, look, if you have an accident and you lose a guy, you've now got to potentially take a hit for production. You're not producing as much because that guy's now off, or you're now going to lose production until you find someone else that can do the job. That's another added cost, and you might still be paying this guy who's off sick as well. So you've now got two employees you're paying for, plus a loss in production. If that's also resulted in an investigation, that might mean that the regulator might tell you can't use that piece of machinery until the investigation's done. It could be a damaged piece of machinery you now got to get fixed or replaced. So all of these measures are designed to help individuals understand I'm not here to complicate. I'm here to make things safe, things
Hmm.
healthy. But at the same time, if you put the right measures in place, it can prevent these additional costs.
Yep.
If you have an accident, your insurance costs go up. You might have court costs. You might have to pay out stuff. So there's
Hmm.
all these things. You've got to deal with the human cost, the stress of dealing with all that stuff. All of those things take time, they take energy, and they take money. If you manage it at the beginning, hopefully none of that other stuff will happen. And actually it can help. And the same with construction. I have the same conversations with people. It's about saying, I'm not going to complicate it. In fact, I
Right.
can tell you where to improve it, and that will save you money, you know?
Yeah. You everything you said is A plus, A1 is 100% correct. When I was teaching the OSHA 10 class, I was talking to some young adults, and most of the people that I've been teaching here
Mm.
over the past probably 6 to 8 months, on and off, they're usually pretty fresh, getting ready to graduate,
Mm.
a university, or uni. I believe y'all say uni, right? Did I get
Uni.
that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Uni,
That's
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. I've been listening to a lot of people from the UK and
Yeah,
people from Africa, their interviews like on investing, and they say uni. At first,
yeah.
it kind of tripped me. I was like, uni? What? Oh, university. Oh, okay, okay. All right, yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
catching up with the lingo, but when I'm talking to these young adults between the ages of about 19 to about 25-ish on
Mm.
average, they're usually pretty close to getting ready to graduate. They may have like a semester left. I always tell them, like, hey, keep this in mind. Like, not every safety manager is like me, and I'm not like every safety manager. And
Yeah.
so what I found from older folks, that's probably about 15 to 20 years older than me, is sometimes the reason why they think safety people are going to complicate it is because of their experience.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I try to teach
Yeah.
the younger generation that's coming up after me, like, hey, I'm a little bit more like, let's talk, let's figure out a solution. But then you might have another guy, he's not like me, or another gal that's not like me at all. They're like,
Mhm.
look, this is it. I don't care what anybody. They're not really like, let's sit down at the table, let's reason together, let's really talk
Yeah.
about this and figure out a solution. Some people are like, nope, this is it. Don't care. Now, for me, I told them, I'm only like that when I know it's immediate danger to life and health.
Mhm.
There is no discussion.
Yep.
Like, this is the OSHA standard. This is the company policy. This is what we have to do.
Yeah.
But that rarely should be happening, and it rarely does happen to me because most of the time, when you have a good team, and you have people in management working along with you, assisting you, they're going to help you make the right decision just as much as they want the production to continue. They want to make sure the right decision is made for safety. And
Yeah.
so, like you say, you don't want people to think you're going to cost them money, but
Mm.
you also have to sometimes, based off their experience, understand like they may think that because maybe they remember, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or
Mm.
something like that, they remember a safety manager who did something to them that made them feel like, oh man, these guys don't care about us. They just care about you know, being a tough guy, being a
Yeah.
tough
Yeah.
guy. I've ran into safety managers like that, man. It's probably the most horrible safety managers that I've seen, if I'm being
Mm.
transparent, are the ones that they want to throw their weight around all the time. It's like, man, you can be professional and not throw your weight around and still get a
Yep.
point across and still professionally let people know like, hey, we don't really have any other alternatives but to do it this way, because if we don't do it this way, somebody's going to get injured. Somebody has the possibility of even a fatality happening to them on the job site. But it's when you have a good team around you, you usually don't have to worry about going to the extreme like that to try to get people's buy-in on, you know, hey, we got this hazard, we need to correct it. These are some solutions that we have. This is a cheaper one.
Mm.
This one's maybe not as cheap, but we're probably gonna, at least we have something that we can pull from to help these men and women get back to work so we can finish this project.
Yeah. And I think it's important to remember that for some people, I am the solution.
Yeah.
That's the point. And it's yeah, you're right. You can throw your weight around and you can do this, that, and the other. But actually, if it puts people off and it makes things difficult, you as the solution, you're failing because the whole
Yeah.
point is to talk to people. If I've had it many, many times where I don't know, let's say someone's doing a piece of work and I can look at the method statement that says how this piece of work should be done, right? And I might have written it myself. And
Hmm.
then I go out and they're doing the work and I look at the method statement and I see what the guys are doing. I think, well, they're not doing the same thing. Now, I could say, no, no, stop. You got to do it the way I'm doing it. Or I could go up to them and say, oh, the method statement says this, but you're doing that. Why is that? Just tell me
Hmm.
what it is. Because a lot of the time, I'm not an expert. I don't know how to build bridges. I don't know how to build this, that, and the other. I'm not an engineer. So
Hmm.
for me to start shouting and telling them how to do it, and I've got no real qualifications, it's quite disrespectful. So it's just to me to
Right.
just help me understand why you're doing it that way, because actually that might be better. That
Yeah.
might be safer. So it's important, I think, for people to understand that just because I'm the health and safety guy doesn't mean I'm always right, because I can guarantee you I'm not always right. I'm definitely
Right.
not.
Right.
So
Same
it's a
here.
learning experience for me as well. I want to know so that when I'm writing these documents, I'm writing the best possible document it can be. I do the same with agriculture and farming. I don't tell farmers how to farm. When I've written documents for them in the past, I say, look, this is what I think. Let's go through it together. You tell me if that's practical, if it's pragmatic. Are we dealing with the hazards and are we managing them in a way that you can manage? Because if I put something in there that they simply can't do, then the paperwork's worthless. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything. So you have to work with individuals. You have to, like you say, you've got to get them on your side, but I need their input. I'm the health and safety expert. They're the farming expert. Together, you
Yeah.
can write the documents and build them together. That's the point. So it's about recognizing I am the solution. If I can't do it, if I can't make this effective, then it's don't hire me because I'm pointless. So that's how I
Man,
take.
I like what you're saying, man. I'll be honest with you. I struggled with that when I
Mm,
first got into safety, because there's a peer group in safety that like, and I'm not saying everybody, but when I say a peer group, like there's a percentage of male and
yeah.
female in safety that, if I'm honest, they don't want to seem like they don't know.
Oh God, yeah,
And so
yeah,
I kind of came when I was coming up, I guess being a novice at that time, not really having a lot of experience, I felt like, hey, no matter what, you always got to seem like you know.
yeah,
And, some of that was from the older gentlemen that I was around. There was a little bit of like, man, I don't want to be the young guy that doesn't know. So I have
mm,
to try to finesse this to where
yeah,
no matter what, I sound like I know.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and what I actually found out, to your point, man, and if I could and I actually give this advice to anybody getting
Mm,
into safety or anybody new getting it, that's new to safety. Stop pretending like you know everything and
Yeah.
get around somebody who doesn't mind teaching you the process so you can
Yeah.
be effective at your job.
Yeah.
It's okay not to know, bro. Like, sis, it's
Yeah.
okay. You, because when you act like you know and then you keep what I call playing face, which means you keep
Mm.
putting on an impression you really don't
Mhm.
know,
Yep.
you're not helping the team. So like you
Yeah.
said, hey, I wrote this up.
Yeah.
I had some knowledge of what you were doing. I'm
Yeah.
not the expert, but I did write something around your process. But you're doing this different. What I found is this is not all the time, but for the right people, when they're not doing it the way it was written, when you ask questions, they often tell you the reason why I couldn't do it this way is because of this, and it just doesn't, this step doesn't
Yeah.
work. Like if I try to
Exactly.
do this step, I
Yeah.
can't continue to do my work. And it's like, oh,
Exactly.
okay,
Yep.
so now I need to go back and I need to look at this with my team and say, hey, this is the issue I ran into. Not only did I run into it with this person, but I ran into it with multiple people confirming
Yeah.
that this person's correct. Man, I
Yep.
think we need to look at this again. We might need to
Yep.
rewrite this to make sure it's fitting for the employee so that they can still produce and have good quality work while being safe at the same time.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, health and safety law. I mean, I've got some experience of OSHA as well. All it really comes down to is managing hazards and risks. It
Hmm.
won't give you a very prescriptive way to do that. It will just say fire risk. Try and manage it this way, and this way. The detail is different from job to job, site to site, project to project. They're always going to be
Hmm.
different. So you have to be adaptive. So nobody can possibly know everything. You can't, because I've not worked on every continent in every country on the planet. I've not worked in every industry in every sector. I have no knowledge on nuclear power, aerospace. I couldn't go into those sectors, so I
Hmm.
don't think about it. So you have to be adaptive, and you've got to be honest and upfront. And you also just have to use the resources around you. The resources
Yeah.
is, if I want to know how to manage this building a bridge safely, then I'll go and talk to the people that build bridges and have a chat with them and find out, what do we do? How do we do it? Can we do this? Can we do that? And they'll say yes or no. And that's it.
Right.
I think experience, like I say, 20 years later, I can do that because I'm quite comfortable in myself in the sense that I don't really feel like I've got anything to prove. But you're
Hmm.
right. Certainly as a younger man, I would often go into these places and just always feel like, oh, crikey, I need to know this and I need to know that, and start worrying.
Right.
But I don't worry anymore. I mean, even now, even 20 years later of being on rail, I still go into meetings where there are guys that have done 35, 40, 45 years. I still feel like I know nothing compared to some of these guys.
Right.
But I see that as an opportunity to learn and grow, not to worry and start getting sort of, insecure.
Hmm.
And like you say, with the younger guys and women that come through, I think it's just about saying to them, observe, ask questions, and put your pride away. That's it.
Hmm.
Just take your time and you'll be fine. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And so I have one last question. My
Sure.
laptop's about to die on me, so I was like, man, I got like 18% left. But I wanted to
Yeah.
get this last question in. You mentioned well, let me say this first. When I got into safety about 6.5 years ago, I started reading of, IOSH,
Uh,
NIOSH, our Occupational Safety and Health
yeah.
Administration. And I kind of got a little confused, and then I found out there's the American uh institutional groups, and then
Uh,
there's the UK institutional
uh,
groups. And you actually spoke about NEBOSH.
uh,
The last gentleman that I spoke to in Africa, and I know me and you have talked about this, outside of this podcast, this segment here, is IOSH and NEBOSH,
mm,
NEBOSH being
yeah.
um, pretty much the same kind of stuff we have here in the States.
Yeah.
If you could kind of explain to people what those institutional groups are set up for and how they help the UK citizens today.
Oh, NEBOSH is it's an organisation that kind of sets the standard in terms of what you need to do to get the certification and the qualifications. So it's an educational centre. They have courses that you can do. They provide you with all of the materials. They do the exams, but it's an internationally recognised qualification as well. So you'll quite often see jobs in the Middle East, Africa, and here in Europe that will ask for NEBOSH qualifications. They are an equivalent to the US versions,
Okay.
but you don't typically. I don't think I come across anybody with the US versions outside of the US.
Hmm.
Whereas I would imagine people from the rest of the world going into the US with those types of NEBOSH qualifications. But yeah, I mean they're the main body that really sets the standards in terms of where your knowledge level needs to be.
Hmm.
You pay your membership fee, and what that can sometimes mean is you get your acronyms after your name so that people know what level you're at. So I'm
Hmm.
one of my I'm certified, and the next will be chartered. So I'd be a chartered health and safety practitioner. So
Okay.
just to look at my CV, someone will know, okay, he's gone through a certain level of education in health and safety. He's done his exams. He's passed the exams. With the chartered one, you do an online assessment with IOSH. This is, and then you'll have a board interview by three
Okay.
chartered members that have got lots of experience. They'll ask you some questions about how I manage my what we call a CPD, which is my development, and they want to see that you're constantly managing your knowledge. You can't just get your qualification
Right.
and then leave it.
Yeah.
You know, they want you to monitor it and manage it so that you're always learning new things or making sure that old knowledge is being superseded by new knowledge.
Okay.
So that's a really important part of what IOSH and NEBOSH do is making sure that you're always learning. But yeah, I mean, they set, like I say, they set the standards for what we do and how the exams go. But other than that, I mean, some people like NEBOSH.
Hmm.
My route was also slightly different. I did some NEBOSH and I did an NVQ in a different way as well. So
Hmm.
my diploma is not NEBOSH, but it is the same qualification, same level. So
Okay.
there's different routes that you can go depending on how you like to learn. I mean, some people love reading books.
Yeah.
Um, some people don't, and they prefer the hands-on practical knowledge of building a portfolio of evidence to say, "Look, this is what I've done
Right.
for you last year. There you go," and then they get the qualification. So there's different ways of doing it. But IOSH, they're the ones that really, when you get individuals with the bits after their names, that's what comes through their IOSH membership. So this is probably not. I mean, I don't speak on behalf of IOSH or NEBOSH, but
Hmm.
NEBOSH kind of do the examination side of it, and IOSH are the accreditation and the sort of the levels that the acronyms that come after your name in a nutshell.
Okay. Okay. No, man, I appreciate that information. Like I said, and I wanted to ask that question because you mentioned it earlier. And I'm pretty sure like my safety peer group and the people that I know that are, always willing to learn and growing
Yeah.
would know like Nibosh and me speaking with you being from the UK sounds like the same because the acronyms almost sound pretty much the
Mm.
same.
Mhm.
And what I wanted to do was make sure that I gave you a platform to kind of speak abroad on it to a broad,
Mhm.
American audience, because sometimes, man, when we're in two different nations and two different
Mm.
countries or wherever the case is, and it's like people get focused on what's here, but they don't
Yeah, yeah,
realize what you have here is also here. It just may have a
yeah,
different acronym.
yeah,
Maybe they have slightly a different process. Like
yeah,
some of the stuff you were talking about of there's different ways to get certain certifications. So for us here, we'll have a co-show OSHA
mhm,
500 to where, we're able to teach OSHA 10 and OSHA 30 hour. But then there's certain what I would call designations from the Board of Certified Safety Professionals that we who deem to want to go get that
yep,
to try to go up another level internationally or something that's internationally recognized. Like you said, we try to go to those levels
yeah,
just to continue to grow. And then they have a continuing education side too. So, you have to be involved in, let me say there's different ways of getting it. You can teach an OSHA 10, OSHA 30 class that could be accounted for credit hours, so
okay,
every year
yeah,
you also have to update, your credentials, you make a payment, and then every 5 years you have to have done continuing education classes in between
yep,
there. And that kind of helps you, like you say, hey, I got the old knowledge, but just in case if there's a new silica standard or a new
mm,
asbestos standard or something, at least I'm continuing to educate myself to where I can help serve the American people in the workforce out there. So I
yeah.
appreciate you taking out time to explain that.
No, that's all right. Yeah, and it is similar. I mean, like I said, I've got a bit of experience dealing with the American side of things, and OSHA and the federal law, state law, and that stuff. And
Hmm.
then quite often it is pretty much the same approach, same ways of doing things. It's just a different. When you read OSHA, it took me a bit of time to get used to using OSHA.
Hmm.
You didn't find it very intuitive at first, but once you get the grasp of it, you think, okay, it makes sense. It's not that dissimilar to what we have here anyway. But certainly with NEBOSH, I mean, NEBOSH, you can do an international diploma. So it talks about international, law. You're
Nice.
around different places that you might work in and that sort of thing. So that's quite a good one to do. I think that's quite a popular one to do because you
Wow.
can pretty much
Okay.
take that anywhere.
That's
So I don't,
nice, man.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Because
But
some
I
people
mean,
want to relocate. So, I think that's nice. I'm sorry I cut you off. You
well,
continue.
no, I was going to say it's the same thing. I mean, it depends on what you want to do for your career. Because, like you say, some people want to relocate, and I think if you do want to work in the Middle East and Africa, and there's a lot of money being spent in these parts of the world, and if you want to be a consultant, self-employed, or even work for these big organizations, and why not? There's a lot of money to be made. There's some very
Mhm.
interesting projects to do. You want to give yourself the best possible opportunity to do that, then do these sort of NEBOSH international diplomas or whatever it might be, and people will quite often be very interested in snapping you up. So it's definitely worth doing if that's what you want to do. Go for it. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man. Well, I want to do a part two to this interview,
Sure.
and I would like to talk about, some of the things that we see that may be issues that we're seeing in different areas, like whether it's construction,
Okay.
agriculture. I know we kind of touched on it now, but just like some issues that we see that maybe the safety community at large, we and this could be with this could change. I'm just kind of
Yeah.
bringing this up to let people know there'll be a part two, and
Yeah.
we'll try to make it interesting for everybody to be able to kind of learn from us, and
Of
also
course.
make some comments on some of these clips that we will be sharing. But yeah, man, I said all that to say, man, I would love to have you back on the
Mhm.
podcast. We can do another segment, and we can
Definitely.
continue to educate people and inform people, and help one another grow in our careers as well.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be up for that. I do like talking about it. I must admit, although at the beginning I said that getting into health and safety was never planned, I
Hmm.
wouldn't change it. I do enjoy the job. I enjoy the variation in the people you meet, the challenges, the projects, working in different industries. And in fact, it's allowed me to meet yourself and come onto this. So, yeah, more than happy to do a part two. Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Awesome, awesome. Well, y'all, we're gonna go ahead and get ready to end the podcast. This has been Mr. Luke in the UK. So I told y'all, hey man, we're gonna get different faces from different places on this planet. It's a blessing, man, to be able to talk to people that do what I do on a higher level, and being able to do it in different areas of the world as well. So thank you all for tuning in. Keep in mind, this is the Safety Realm Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Kemp Jr., and this is the podcast where we discuss all things safety and health. We'll catch y'all later. Peace.